For me, my musical journey started when I was in about 5th grade. I remember seeing Trey Cool on MTV or VH1 or whatever it is. That's the drummer for Green Day. And I saw that he was in a big, loud rock band, and he had a big, cool drum set, and he played it really loud, and he had eyeliner and a mohawk, and I was like, I want to be that guy. So I went to my parents and asked for a drum set. And I grew up in a blended family, so I went to my mom's side and my dad's side and asked for a drum set. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that situation, but each side is always trying to outdo the other side. So my mom actually beat my dad to the punch, even though he had promised me a drum set as well, and she got me my very first drum set. The only catch was that I was only allowed to play snare drums, and the only kind of lessons that they would pay for is snare drum lessons. So I took snare drum lessons from a drum corps guy, and I think he made me cry like 3 or 4, 10 times. I absolutely disliked it, but little did I know that it was gonna help me way down the road develop a little bit of the chops that I do have still today. Once I got off the snare drum and was able to play the full drum set through junior high and into high school, I actually ended up starting a band with a couple of my friends, just playing really loud in the garage and upsetting all my neighbors. Somebody actually ended up thinking that we were good, so we got picked up by management, which was cool, and they took us to get shopped around all over the country by all these record labels, and we ended up getting picked up by a record label, recorded an album with a couple really cool producers, John Feldman, Colby Wedgeworth, who have done bands like 5 Seconds of Summer, Boys Like Girls, Good Charlotte, The Used, all those bands I actually grew up listening to. From there, we were able to actually go on a couple national tours, which was an awesome experience. Got to play shows every single night for a living, which was great. After that ran its course, though, I decided to actually come to the drum lab to take drum lessons. I wanted to get better as a drummer, not just somebody who played to his songs or played to other bands' songs growing up. I wanted to actually develop myself to where I was good on my own as a drummer. So for the next few years, I worked really hard, practicing a whole lot, developing myself as a player. Currently, I'm playing with a couple local artists, playing at a couple local churches, and teaching full-time at the lab, and constantly still developing myself, trying to get better every day. My influences have changed over the years. When I first started out, it was people like Trey Cool or Bob Bryant from My Chemical Romance. As I've grown as a drummer, I've gotten into drummers who are more just famous for being drummers, not for the bands that they're in. People like Steve Jordan, Benny Greb, Mike Johnston. Recently, my muse is this guy George Daniel from the band The 1975. His grooves are awesome. As far as my playing goes, I love groove, I love chops. For me, I find the most joy out of a drum set when I'm playing with a group of people. There's nothing better to me than playing with a band, whether it be a church or playing a show. My main philosophy would be to make the band feel as comfortable as possible. I want to be the bass player or the guitarist or even the lead singer's favorite person to play with, because they don't have to think about the tempo changing or me dropping a drumstick and it flying and hitting somebody in the crowd. When I teach, I like to mix a healthy amount of theory and musical application, meaning that I like to teach some rudiments, sight reading, all that kind of stuff. To me, a lot of that is useless without musical application. So whether you're a kid or an adult, I love to teach you a sick groove or teach you rudiments and say, hey, you can practice this or you can even play this to this song. What's really most important to me is that the student is having fun, is falling in love with the drum set the same way that I love the drum set. If you're not loving what you're doing, then there's absolutely no point in doing it. The gear I play is all my favorite gear: DW drums, Meinl cymbals, Vader drumsticks, Aquarian drum heads, and 1964 audio. Oh, and also a big fat snare drum. Those things make your snare sound fantastic.